Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Buddham dhammang sanghang namasami. Well, dear friends, welcome to this Wednesday night Sutta program with the Empty Cloud Monastery. I'm speaking to you from New Jersey, where we have the delightful occasion of our colleagues Bhante Sudaso and Ayya Sobhana visiting us from their current residence in Italy. And we have the second delightful occasion of having emerged from retreat, having a full moon posted today. If you haven't had a chance, please go outside and look at the moon, and appreciate that. I'm continuing to follow the invitation to consider the 10 paramis, which were the vows that the Bodhisattva undertook during his many previous lifetimes before he was became the Samma Sambuddha, our Buddha, Gautami Buddha. Today we're speaking about the perfection of renunciation. Renunciation in the Pali language is nekkhamma, which is a kind of a pun. The pun is nikama, nekkhamma. Okay, two words that sound almost the same. In the many places, they see nekkhamma spoken of in terms of going forth, undertaking the precepts, and becoming a bhikkhu or a bhikkhuni. In that case, one has the protection of completely giving up money, completely giving up the ownership of wealth and property, completely giving up many kinds of sensual pleasures. And so that's a kind of renunciation that provides both a support and a protection. But what about renunciation for everybody? A renunciation that equally applies to lay people who are beginners in the past, who might still be involved in the householder life, involved in discovering their identity, participating in music and shows and entertainment, participating in love and romance, participating in going out on dates, participating in family life, participating in all of the attachments associated with having children and having parents and having brothers and sisters. So how can everybody practice nekkhamma? In that case, the secondary meaning is referring to kama, which is there's a meaning in Pali of worldly pleasures. That means especially pleasure associated with the five senses, as distinct from the pleasure and happiness that comes from meditation. And it also, the world that we live in is called the Kama world. So in this world, our pleasure and happiness has a lot to do with accumulation and property. So if you think of somebody who is a worldly kind of person, they have a lot of stuff, right? If they would like to enjoy beauty, they would find beautiful things, and then they would purchase those things and put them in their home. So every day they could look at those lovely, nice things and enjoy them. If somebody is into worldly pleasure, they would want their relatives to all be healthy and happy. And so they would try to earn a lot of money so they could pay to take care of all of the things that their relatives need. So all of their relatives and their family could be happy. And then on top of that, they probably should buy a good insurance policy. So in case something happened, that they would be protected from the many tragic accidents that can happen in this world. So this building up of layers and layers of wealth and layers and layers of property seems to be giving a kind of a protection that my worldly happiness is going to be safe, and nothing is going to happen to my worldly happiness because I'm buffered. It's like, first, if you don't like the cold, I guess you could put on long johns, and then you can put on a sweater, and then you could put on a jacket, then you could put on a down jacket and a cap, and put on many, many, many layers of clothing to protect yourself from the cold. And so the same way, a worldly person who is obsessed with worldly desires is trying to put on many, many layers of protection. But then it never works. The beautiful antique vase that you bought falls off the shelf and breaks. The children, you try to give them everything, and they turn out to be spoiled. You did everything to build up your money, but then some disaster falls you, or some mistake falls you, or there's the uncertainty of the world, and you end up losing your wealth and not having enough. So then the person who's living with worldly pleasure lives with worldly fear. They're always afraid that they might lose. So the nakama is you take off the layers and find out how you can be comfortable with less. Instead of wearing all those, being bundled up against the cold with all those layers, you could be like somebody who's from a northern country, like somebody who's from Canada or Sweden or something, and they go out doing their winter sports and they just have a sweater, and they're so comfortable and free because they're just used to it. They don't need all that protection. Before I read you the sutta for tonight, I'm just going to read you one little short verse from the Sutta Nipata. I prefer this translation by Venerable H. Sadatisa, who is a Sri Lankan bhikkhu, who's for a long time, he was the head of the big Buddhist vihara in London. So he's an English Sri Lankan teacher. This is what the Buddha said about renunciation. Lose the greed for pleasure. See how letting go of the world is peacefulness. There is nothing that you need hold on to. There is nothing that you need to push away. Dry up the remains of your past and have nothing for your future. If you do not cling to the present, Then you can go from place to place in peace. There is a greed that fixes on the individual body and mind. When that greed has completely gone, then, Brahmin, there will be no more inner poison drives, and you will be immune from death. Now I'm going to read you the simile of the quail. This is number 66 in the Middle Length Discourses. The Buddha was staying in the land of the Anguttara near the town of theirs named Apana. The Buddha went and entered that town for alms. He wandered for alms. After the meal, on his return from alms round, he went to a certain forest grove for the day's meditation. He sat at the root of a tree to meditate. Then Venerable Udayi also roamed up. He also went for alms. He wandered for alms. He went to that same forest grove for the day's meditation. He sat at the foot of the tree and he meditated. While he was in private retreat, this thought came to his mind. The Buddha has rid us of so many things that bring suffering and gifted us so many things that bring happiness. He has rid us of so many unskillful things, gifted us so many skillful things. Then in the late afternoon, he went to the Buddha, bowed and sat one side, and he repeated his thought about the skillful things, the gifts. And he mentioned the specific. These are about the rules that the Buddha gave about eating only once in the day. He said, we used to eat at dusk, at daybreak, and at the wrong time of day. But then the Buddha came and he said, please give up that meal at the wrong time of day. At that, sir, we became sad and upset. These faithful householders give us delicious, fresh, and cooked food at the wrong time of day. And the Blessed One tells us to give it up. The Holy One tells us to let it go. But when we considered our love and respect for the Buddha and our sense of conscience and prudence, we gave up that meal at the wrong time of the day. Then that would be in the afternoon. Then we ate only at dusk, in the evening, and at daybreak. And then the Buddha addressed the mendicants again and said, please give up the meal at the wrong time of night. And we became sad and upset. That's considered the more delicious of the two meals. And the Blessed One tells us to give it up. The Holy One tells us to let it go. Once it happened that somebody gave some soup during the day, and they thought, come, let's set this aside. We'll enjoy it together this evening. Nearly all meals are prepared at night, only a few in the day. But when we considered our love and respect for the Buddha, our sense of conscience and prudence, we gave up that meal at the wrong time of night. In the past, the mendicants went wandering for alms in the dark of the night. They walked into a swamp or fell into a sewer, or collided with a thorn bush, or collided with a sleeping cow, or encountered youths escaping a crime, or on their way to commit one, or were invited by a lady to commit a lewd act. Once it so happened that I was wandering for alms in the dark of the night. A woman washing a pot saw me by a flash of lightning. Startled, she cried out, woe is me, it's a damn goblin. When she said this, I said to her, sister, I am no goblin. I'm a mendicant waiting for alms. And she said, die, mendicant's father, die, mendicant's mother. Better to have your belly sliced open with a sharp meat cleaver than to wander for alms in the dark of the night for the sake of your belly. Recollecting that, I thought the Buddha has rid us of so many things that bring suffering and gifted us so many things that bring happiness. and so on. This is exactly what happens when some futile people are told by me to give something up. They say, "What? Such a trivial, trifling thing as this? This ascetic is much too strict." So now you may think in your mind if there's any small, trifling thing which is a pleasure, but it's not actually that good for you. Yeah. Could be for householders, your smartphone, your messages, your Facebook, your social media, or it could be spending money on things that catch your eye when you go shopping. Maybe you only need to buy one thing, but then you go to the store and you see so many other cute things in the store and think, "Oh, I have to have that, I have to have that." Or it could be well, you can think your own thoughts about the kind of things that you still keep in your life that are distractions. We could say, especially after you've been doing your duties, doing your responsibilities for a certain amount of time during the day, and then it comes time to take a break. Are you mindful to use that break time in a way which is wholesome and mindful? Or do you just want to have a snack or lie down during the day and take a nap, or do something which is a waste of time, instead of realizing that even like taking a break from your work, you could use that time to be quiet and mindful and to go within, and that would be so much more refreshing than doing something else that's just causing distractions. So there's many things you could think of. That's the little things. We're supposed to give up dancing, music, shows, makeup, perfume, adornment, jewelry, and all things like that. So those things are so trivial. Who would have thought that wearing a necklace or wearing a bracelet is going to stop me from becoming enlightened? That's kind of foolish. Why does the Buddha ask us to give up something so trivial like that? But because of our faith and confidence in the Buddha, when we take this monastic form, we agree to give those things up. And that's the example that this monk is speaking about. But you can take your own example that applies to your own situation at home or in the householder life. These futile people are told by me to give something up. They say, "Such a trivial, trifling thing as this ascetic is much too strict." They don't give it up, and they nurse bitterness toward me. And for the mendicants who want to train, that becomes a strong, firm, stout bond, a tie that has not rotted, and a heavy yoke. Suppose a quail was tied with a vine and was waiting there to be injured, caged, or killed. Would it be right to say that for that quail, that vine is weak, feeble, rotten, and insubstantial? No, sir. For the quail, that vine is strong and firm, a stout bond, a tie that has not rotted, and a heavy yoke. And that's how it is when people, they're told by the Blessed One to give something up. And you resist and you don't agree to give that up. So then even something as weak as a little piece of a vine is still strong and ties you down, because your willpower has become just like the strength of a little quail. And for the mendicants who want to train, that becomes a strong, firm, stout bond, a tie that has not rotted, a heavy yoke. But when some gentlemen are told by me to give something up, they say, what we have to give up is such a trifling thing as this. When the Blessed One tells us to give it up, the Holy One tells us to let it go, they give it up. They don't nurse bitterness toward me. And when the mendicants who want to train have given that up, they live relaxed, unruffled, surviving on charity, their hearts as free as a wild deer. For them, that bond is weak, feeble, rotten, and insubstantial. Suppose there was a royal bull elephant with tusks like draft poles, able to draw a heavy load, with a pedigree and battle-hardened, and it's bound with a strong harness. By just twisting its body a little, it would break apart its bond and go wherever it wants. Would it be right to say that for that bull elephant, that strong harness is a strong, firm, stout bond, a tie that has not rotted, and a heavy yoke? No, sir. For the bull elephant, even the strong harness is weak, feeble, rotten, insubstantial. In the same way, when some gentlemen are told to give something up, they say what we have to give up is trivial, trifling. But when the Blessed One says give it up, we give it up. So it's giving up the trivial and trifling things that builds strength and makes the practitioner and their practice become powerful, like the elephant. And now it's just repeating the thing. Now here's another metaphor. Suppose there's a poor man with few possessions and little wealth. He has a single broken down hovel open to crows, not the best sort. A single broken down couch, not the best sort. A single pot for storing grain, not the best sort. And a single wifey, not the best sort. Or a single partner, whatever gender you like, not the best sort. He sees a mendicant sitting in meditation in the cool shade, their hands and feet well washed, after eating a satisfying meal. He thinks, the ascetic life is very pleasant. The ascetic life is so healthy. If only I could shave off my hair and beard, dress in ochre robes, and go forth from the lay life to homelessness. But he's not able to give up his broken down hovel, his broken down couch, his pot for storing grain, or his partner, none of which are the best sort, in order to go forth. It would be right to say, for that man, those bonds are weak, feeble, rotted, and insubstantial? No, sir. For that man, they are strong, firm, a stout bond, a tie that has not rotted, a heavy yoke. And then he repeats the same lesson again. And then the contrast. Suppose there was a rich householder or a householder's child, affluent and wealthy. He had a vast amount of gold ingots, grain, fields, lands, wives, and male and female bond servants. He'd see a mendicant sitting in a cool shade, their hands and feet well washed after eating a satisfying meal, and he'd think, that ascetic life is so very pleasant. That ascetic life is so very healthy. If only I could shave off my hair and beard, dress in ochre robes, and go forth from lay life to homelessness. And he's able to give up his vast amount of gold ingots, grain, fields, lands, wives, male and female bondservants, in order to go forth? So for that householder, are they a strong, firm, stout bond? A tie that has not rotted and a heavy yoke? No. No, for that life householder, even all that wealth and all those connections are weak, feeble, rotten, and insubstantial, easy to break through. So it's the same way when the Blessed One tells you to give something up. You should give it up, whether it be great or small. They don't give it up. Don't nurse our bitterness towards the Dhamma, towards the Sangha, towards the Buddha. And when you do this, you can live relaxed, unruffled, with your heart as free as a wild deer. These 4 individuals are found in the world. What 4? Take a certain individual practicing to give up and let go of attachments. As they do so, memories and thoughts connected with attachments beset them. They tolerate them and don't give them up. Don't get rid of them. Don't eliminate them. Don't obliterate them. I call this individual fettered, not detached. Why? Because I understand the disparity of faculties as it applies to this individual. Then here's another individual practicing to give up and let go of attachments. As they do so, memories and thoughts connected with attachments beset them. They don't tolerate them, but give them up, get rid of them, eliminate them, and obliterate them. I also call this individual fettered, not detached. Why is that? Because I understand the disparity of faculties as it applies to this individual. Here's another individual practicing to give up and let go of attachments. As they do so, memories and thoughts connected with attachments beset them every so often due to a loss of mindfulness. Slowly, mindfulness arises. Then they quickly give up, get rid and eliminate those thoughts. Suppose there was an iron cauldron that had been heated all day, and a person let 2 or 3 drops of water fall into it. Slowly the drops fall, but then they quickly dry up and evaporate. In the same way, take an individual practicing to give up and let go of attachments. As they do so, memories and thoughts connected with attachments beset them every so often due to loss of mindfulness. Slowly, mindfulness arises, but then they quickly give up, eliminate, obliterate those thoughts. Still, this person is fettered, not yet detached. But you got this progression. Here's another individual who understands that attachment is the root of suffering and is freed with the end of attachments. I call this individual detached, not fettered. Because I understand the disparity of faculties as it applies in the world. So, this will be what most of us are aiming for until we gain stream entry. Aim for that understanding, to quickly, naturally, intuitively, thoroughly, and without a doubt, understand that attachment is the root of suffering, so that you see the danger. And then when any kind of attachment arises in the mind, it's not even able to fully arise, because we never take the bait. If you see the danger, you won't take the bait. You will just avoid taking that bait. He continues, there are 5 kinds of sensual stimulation. What 5? Sights known by the eye that are likable, desirable, agreeable, pleasant, sensual, and arousing. Sound, smells, taste, touches. These are the 5. The pleasure that comes from the 5 senses is called sensual pleasure. He calls this a filthy, ordinary, ignoble pleasure. Such pleasure should not be cultivated or developed, but should be feared, I say. When one has obtained seclusion from that sensual pleasure, secluded from unskillful qualities, then they can enter and remain in the 1st jhana, the 2nd jhana, 3rd jhana, 4th jhana. This is called the pleasure of renunciation. So the bliss and happiness of fully entering into meditation at the level of jhana is able to happen when one is able to gain seclusion from the attachment to the pleasure related to the 5 senses. And then it goes on. I don't really want to emphasize very much about this portion of this sutta. As they go through the progression of the jhanas, the 1st jhana has applied thought and sustained thought. And then the applied thought and sustained thought, it's called here, placing the mind and keeping it connected. That's vitaka vichara. That becomes too much of a disturbance. And then when you see that it's a disturbance and you value tranquility, then you let that go. So this process of letting go, first we gave up dancing, music, singing, and shows and jewelry and bangles and bracelets and so forth. And then we let go of our nostalgia for back when we were kids and we used to, enjoy all those pleasures. And we don't dwell on that. We become really equanimous about the materialistic, pleasant and unpleasant things. And then we have to go inside and do the work within the mind and discover where the attachments are within the mind. And the Buddha is advising, when you give up everything that creates a disturbance in the mind. And I think I almost could read your mind and say somebody's saying, well, we need some disturbances in the mind. That's how we know that we're alive, right? We need to be active and so on. But that constant longing for that activation, that the mind just wants to keep busy and keeps busy, that actually is a disturbance and a block. And you should listen to what the Blessed One said, because of your faith, your confidence in the Blessed One, and having a prudence and conscience. And he says, You should value peace. You should value tranquility. Don't think of wasting your meditation hour by fretting and worrying and thinking in ways that make the mind be disturbed. Aim for peace. Give up whatever's creating the disturbance. And that way you become, you get away from what the Buddha says, what's the perturbable. You give that up. So then even the second jhana, even the third jhana has rapture and bliss, and that rapture and bliss is still not imperturbable. It still is a disturbance. And so then you give that up and you let the fading away of the rapture. And then you have a bliss with equanimity. But even that bliss still belongs to the perturbable. You give that up. Then when you come to the fourth jhana, the description of the fourth jhana is you become, you give up, you lose interest in physical pleasure, physical pain. You lose interest in mental pleasure and mental pain, and you give them up. And then the mind becomes imperturbable. So whatever you have in meditation that has that quality of causing a perturbation or a disturbance in the mind, give it up, go beyond. So here's a mendicant in the first jhana with the placing mind and keeping it connected, that becomes stilled. They go to the second absorption, second jhana. Then they go beyond it. That's not enough. You have to go beyond. With the fading away of rapture, you go to the third jhana. But the Buddha said, go beyond it. That's not enough. Go beyond it. Then you give up pleasure and pain. You go to the fourth jhana. That goes beyond it. But the Buddha says, this too is not enough. Give it up. Go beyond it. What goes beyond it? You go totally beyond perception of form, perception of impingement, not focusing on diversity. And now we come to the immaterial meditations. And I am not happy to give a class tonight on the immaterial meditations, but that is the meditation where the mind has lost interest in the five senses and is only looking inward, and even then giving up element by element by element, whatever becomes an object of awareness, you give it up. Everything you experience in meditation, give it up. Everything, give it up. Let it go. Give it up. Go beyond. This is what the Buddha advised. Even what's the highest meditation of all in this particular list is the dimension of neither perception nor non-perception. And I say, the Buddha says, go beyond it. I even recommend giving up that dimension. So then, this is the sutta about the quail, which started in such a simple way with giving up soup in the evening, giving up. We have our little conversations around here. In my opinion, the Buddha said also to give up carrot juice in the evening. He said to give up beet juice in the evening. He said to give up almond milk in the evening. And so it's from that trivial, just that pattern, if you're really honest, that the mind keeps on attaching to our little habits. If you're really honest, yourself, the things, your little pleasures. I'm going to tell you another story. There was a Catholic nun who I met. She was a very good in a community. This was back in California, and she was a good meditator. She said, within the order of nuns, some of them are continuing like to strive for their spiritual goal. And some of the nuns, they're ordained and they're set for life. And they lose the plot. They forget or they give up on their spiritual aspirations. But they don't have enough courage to give up being a religious and to go out into the world and get a job and, face that. So they stay wearing the clothing of a nun and living in the community with the nuns. And for those nuns, the little pleasures of life become so important. It's like if the cafeteria serves cupcakes on Tuesday, it's like really, really, really important. And the outlandish amount of importance that comes from the small comforts and the small pleasures of life is really the telltale sign that nun has lost the plot and forgotten the real purpose. And so within even within our monastery form, we've got there's plenty to be delightful about within the monastic form. It's because the love and respect and generosity that people have that they help us, and receiving what's been offered is such a pleasure. Having even the pleasure, although it's not actually secure. We could lose our berths wherever it is that we happen to be staying. We could lose that and be on the street and not know. But nevertheless, there's something that's because we practice in a way that is very orderly and simple, and that orderliness and that simplicity is kind of like a pleasure. If somebody has a mind that's inclining towards pleasure, but if we've still got a hold of the plot, if we're still remembering why we're here, or if we still remember what the Buddha advised us, we will always be somewhat on guard, seeing the danger, and we will always be using our mindfulness to look within, to be aware of our own inner chitta, our own inner state of mind. And, we want to know, is it liberated or not? And if it's not liberated, why not? What are we waiting for? So with that, we have this spiritual urgency, but this teaching is quite comforting in a way, because we know that relinquishing and letting go and disengaging from things that are small and easy is actually building up their strength, building up our power, so that instead of being as weak as the little quail, we can become as strong as the great elephant, and to be able to break through any kind of bond, any kind of fetter. So that's my talk for now. And I see Sudha has very kindly offered a question. Hello, Chintana, Samasiha, Manal, Gregory, Moonbeams, Jody, Yankee Appa, Ryan, Parnazim, Janaki, and Sudha. So here's Sudha. So the whole path, if I understand this correctly, we develop jhanas to give up this sensual coarse world, and then give up the jhanas. Yes. The jhanas are just a way to wean off the dependence on this world. Yes. Just that the main thing is this danger with what the Buddha calls sensual pleasure, or you could call it worldly pleasure. You could call it like materialistic pleasure. And that when you gain seclusion from that attachment to materialistic pleasures, then we discover that we have within ourselves a true happiness. And that true happiness doesn't depend on sensuality or materialistic safety or materialistic wealth or materialistic pleasure. And with that, we become free. But then there is still work to do. It's like, the jhana is like a plug. You take out the bad plug and you use another plug to punch out the bad plug, but then the jhana has to be let go. Everything has to be let go. And so that's exactly correct. Regarding right livelihood, Ryan asks, in DN2, the Buddha says contemplatives and Brahmins engaging in a myriad of livelihood. Contemplatives referring to monks or lay practitioners. Well, there were some mendicants in the old days who engaged in certain kinds of livelihood that the Buddha said were wrong livelihood. So they would engage in practicing medicine. They would engage in practicing astrology. They would engage in giving predictions. They would engage in giving advice to the government. And they would engage in carrying messages and helping to arrange marriages and things of that nature. And those are kinds of livelihood that the Buddha advised his disciples not to engage in. So so even as a monk, we have to be careful not to fall into wrong livelihood. even, like people love to have the bhikkhus and bhikkhunis come for a house blessing. If you're something important like your birthday, you might like to invite at least 4 or preferably 8 bhikkhus or 8 bhikkhunis, and invite them to come to your house to do an all-night chanting to give a blessing to your home. And if it can be a wholesome, positive thing, but it becomes a danger for the bhikkhus and bhikkhunis if they get into a business of going around and giving lots and lots and lots of house calls, home visits, giving blessings, giving performances, giving ceremonies, and learning how to chant very beautifully and to look very impressive and so forth. Even something it's really in the mind, something that's wholesome can become a wrong livelihood. How not to attach on passage of time or concept of time in terms of our endurance to continue on meditation. Well, there is definitely a value in doing longer meditations, longer than what you're used to or what you usually do. Even sometimes when sitting for meditation, if there's physical pain from sitting for a long time, or even if there's mental restlessness, that there's a difficulty in holding the meditation for a long time. If a person uses their willpower to don't give up the cushion, but stay on the cushion and continue the meditation, even though internally it doesn't seem like they're meditating at all, they're just writhing in agony because the body is painful or the mind is painful, but nevertheless they insist on holding that posture and seeing like the rebellion of the mind, like watching what happens when the mind is rebelling, or watching what happens when the mind is rebelling. There's a lot to be gained from that. I think that making a determination to sit for a certain amount of time can be a wholesome resolution, a wholesome resolve. Don't get conceited about it. Don't get rigid about it. And later on, you can give it up, but just as a temporary procedure. You can adapt that as a form of training and then give it up afterwards. Sudas, if one develops jhana, what passes away without letting go of jhana, will they be in the same boat as someone who doesn't develop jhana, or will they go to a better rebirth? They would probably go to a Brahma realm, which would be a pleasant rebirth, and it's perfectly compatible with continuing to pursue enlightenment in the Brahma realm. So that's what's predicted. Why would the Buddha's disciples feel bitterness toward him instead of just finding another teacher? People who are inclined to develop a grudge, you can hardly stop them from developing a grudge wherever they are. The Buddha did advise that when going to a certain monastery or a certain community, perhaps being under the guidance of a particular teacher, you should assess whether your wholesome qualities are on the increase and whether your unskillful qualities are decreasing. And if, while you're living in a particular community under the direction of a particular teacher, you see that your bad qualities are increasing and your wholesome qualities are decreasing, you should leave that community and go somewhere else. Even if the requisites are really good and it's very comfortable, you should leave that community. But sometimes out of fear or some other misguided idea, people think they have to stay, and they stay, and it is possible that people can have a resentment towards their Dhamma teacher. Even towards the Buddha, there were some people who resented the Buddha, who had a bitterness towards the Buddha. So it's just the way humans are. But my right leg always goes numb after about 30 minutes into meditation. Is it good to push through the numbness or move? I recommend really work on finding a posture that's as comfortable as possible, in the sense of like doing exercises, yoga exercises, stretching exercises, experimenting with different types of cushions or seats, to a combination of things to try to find a posture that's as comfortable as possible. We are not looking to actively torture ourselves in meditation. The meditation posture is recommended because for somebody who has enough nimbleness to put the body in that posture, it's a very stable and comfortable posture, more stable and more comfortable than the other alternatives. In particular, as the body ages, like for myself, I'm limited because of arthritis, so that some postures that I used to do in the old days, I can't do them anymore without extreme pain. And so I take a posture that I'm able to manage, but then I also try to push beyond for a longer period of time. If when you get up for meditation, the pain or the numbness that you have from sitting is like still persisting, so that night or the next day you're still sore, then maybe you've gone too far, and you should balance sitting and walking meditation. But if you're sitting in meditation and then it's a little bit painful, and then you get up and like 10 or 15 minutes later or an hour later you're perfectly fine, then actually you are not in danger. And so that pain is a pain that you should bear. So you should try to hold the posture as much as you can without causing a further injury to yourself. This community, I know when I was training when I was younger, they always had meditation for 1 hour. For many, many years, I was in communities where the meditation period was 1 hour, and 1 hour sitting, 1 hour walking, 1 hour sitting, 1 hour walking. And that was just the pattern. And then when I came to the Empty Cloud Monastery, the pattern is 90 minutes sitting. That's we do on a daily basis, most mornings and most evenings. And so it's, and I know that other communities also have longer sitting periods. So there is, like you gain something different. You get something with 10 minutes of sitting if you do it every day. You get something different with 30. You get something different with 60. You get something different with 90. You get something different with going on a day-long retreat. You get something different with going on a weekend retreat. You get something different with going on a 2-year retreat. So keep looking out for a variety of different opportunities, different lengths of time, but try to go forward and not to go backward. Manal says, glad to hear there's a gain in longer meditation, even though the mind is rebelling. Yes. Could jhanas be obtained in a medium noise town? Maybe when people asleep but some dog barks, or must there be total quiet and seclusion for attainments, please? There does not have to be perfect silence to gain jhana. In Asia, it's not quiet anywhere. The birds are singing, the dogs are barking, and the wind is blowing. The stream is rippling. So there's always noises happening in nature. And when you're around people, there are always noises around people. It's quite pleasant to go into the isolation of a high-quality the kind of meditation center that's practicing the upper middle path, where everything is perfectly quiet and perfectly comfortable, and the temperature is perfectly comfortable, and everybody is behaving themselves so that nobody's bothering you, or it's to have a chance to go and sit in a cave in some place that's dark and really quiet. There is something to be gained that's beneficial from that, but it's possible to meditate anywhere. The main thing is it's very good to find a space for meditation which is well separated from where your normal work and responsibilities are. So, like meditating in the same place where you do your office work, or meditating in the kitchen where if you're normally involved in cooking or something like that, just the proximity can be a distraction. Is there a time preference when pushing through meditation when the mind or body is restless or in pain? Well, if somebody is a beginner, I would recommend that after you decide to get up for meditation, keep going for 5 more minutes. And then if you've been meditating for a long time, you may increase the time that you would push beyond what you're used to. May our fierce hearts be free on the path from the sense world. Yes, I agree. Okay, so I think this may be enough for tonight. Thank you, everyone, for your patient listening. And thank you for those in the room for your patient attention and for your smiles. It makes me feel I have a reason for going on with speaking about the Dhamma and trying to remember and explain what the Buddha taught. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu anumodami.